Alright, this is going to be a video detailing how I gutted the EFI and put a 4-barrel on it to replace it on my 300 inline 6. Now, a little backstory: the reason I gutted the EFI is it would have cost about $1,500 to fix it and make it look like it should. Even after a $350 carburetor and $270 intake, now $120 in ignition, I'm still a lot cheaper than I would have been fixing the EFI and more power. Now, first off, if you're going to do this, the stock 1-barrel manifolds, they work, but they're not worth the money it takes to buy them. Don't bother getting one. Go ahead and get an Offenheiser or Clifford intake. A small 4-barrel to get your better fuel economy and more power than the 1-barrel will. I had originally put a Quadrajet on this. You can see my intake. I took the bottom half of the EFI manifold, splits in two, and I made a box that sits on top of it for me to put a Quadrajet on there. It did run. It actually had a hell of a lot of power. But the problem with doing that is because of all the air volume in there, and there's no baffling to direct the air which way to go, it didn't want to run below 2,000 RPMs. Once you got above 2,000, it had tons of power and was amazing, but below that it was junk. As far as ignition, the TFI ignition, you do not need to swap it. You don't have to have advanced. These motors, you don't rev them very high anyways, so you really don't need it. But if you want to, you're better off going ahead and swapping from TFI to DualSpark 2 or 1. If you're interested, all of this stuff, all the EFI stuff, I have the complete ignition. I don't have the plugs for this, but it did run. But the computer had fried, and the injectors were good, but the rail itself had some rust holes and tried catching fire. A lot of the wiring would shoot up. It just wasn't worth fixing to me. Even my intake, I'm willing to sell. Just contact me in the doobly-doo below, and if you ever want to put a cone filter on an EFI truck, that's a way to do it right there. But no, not bothering that right there. What you need to do to make this happen, you have a few options. I'm keeping the electric fuel pump in the back. This is a 94, so it had the one high pressure pump in the tank, not the sending pump in the tank, and another high pressure pump on the frame rail. So I kept the original high pressure pump and got a Holley 12-803 BP regulator, and that will work with the high pressure pump, but it will leak. So to solve the leaks, I swapped the high pressure pump for a one out of a 84. Yeah, 84 I think. 84 or 85 F-150. Because that has a 12-volt pump in the tank that only puts out 12 to 7 psi. And I kept the regulator. I'm not running the return line from the carburetor, but I'm running the return line from the regulator. So the fuel is looping through and it ain't going to boil. As far as ignition, all the DualSpark 2 stuff will bolt in place. I chose to get an aftermarket coil because my old coil was 200,000 miles and I didn't think it was worth keeping. Got new plug wires. I went through and gutted the wiring, but I wanted to keep it plug in, so anything holds you up on a swap like this is the wiring. The motor itself, everything will bolt on. It's pretty simple overall. you either have to swap the fuel pump or you have to find a way of regulating it down. Either way. As far as the wiring goes, all your gauges will still work. You will have to rewire the relay for the fuel pump because you are bypassing the computer. As far as the ignition, you will have to rewire the ignition. But you can use a few of the original wires and just splice them in. All in all, I filled up if you can see it over that big blue trash can, I filled that up full of wiring that I gutted. As far as tuning goes, because of the cylinder head on this is still the EFI head, and I didn't grind out the swirl feature they call it or something like that, I left that in there. You will make more power by leaving that in there, but it'll be more finicky to tune it. So just a heads up on that. Do you want to go that route or not? As far as carburetor, like I mentioned, I originally had a Quadrajet on this, and the Quadrajet ran. I might actually go back to that with this intake and just see how it runs then. I think I just had too much air volume in the last intake for it to run properly. But this is the carburetor I bought. It is a complete Holley 450, but they said electric choke when I bought it at O'Reilly's. I don't see a choke there, do y'all? So I think they screwed me on that one. But out of the box, it runs fine. I do need to redo the accelerator pump and possibly rejet, because when you floor it, it bogs. I don't know if that's something I've done wrong or if it just needs a little bit different of tune. But now you see the intake bolted on, no issues. Even managed to save the original gasket. All the electrical in the truck will continue to work, minus the ignition and the fuel pump you will have to rewire. I've spent 2 months fighting with that wiring. I'm not going to walk you through all of that. A lot of that is also because before I got the truck, if you can see the ignition now, before I had owned the truck, someone had tried stealing it from its previous owner. This was a junkyard truck. I got it after it had been repossessed from the previous owner. But no, they had gutted the wiring up quite badly, and I had to go through and do a lot of work of sorting stuff out and making it all run. So my particular job here would be a lot harder than if you already had a running driving truck. As far as EFI versus this fuel economy wise, my EFI was cutting out. I don't know how good a comparison this will make for y'all. But with the EFI I had, I was getting about 14-15 miles to the gallon. And usually I am towing or hauling something, so this is not a sort of a standard application, you could say. With this Holley 4-barrel, it's a 450 CFM deal. I haven't, other than setting the idle, I have done no tuning on this carburetor at all. I'm getting about 15-16 miles a gallon, so I've matched or done a little bit better than the EFI. With the Quadrajet, I was doing about 18 to 20. I think that was because of the secondaries, and the intake was not performing very well, so I think Quadrajet on this intake would work a lot better. But I just sunk $250 into a carburetor. I'm not going to swap it now until winter comes around and I need a choke. Then I'll deal with that fiasco again. Any questions y'all have about this, just ask them in the comment section below. I'll answer you as soon as I can. Any advice or part numbers you want for what it took me to do this, just post it down below. I'll answer you. The hardest part of this whole swap was the lack of information, in particular regarding the wiring, but also regarding the fuel system. How do I cut pressure down? I just spent 2 months fighting through all that and figuring it out. If you're going to go through and do the same thing, let me help you. Let me make this a lot easier a project for you, so you don't have to deal with what I just did. I reckon y'all want to hear it fire up and run. Fair warning, the cam in this is out of a Ford tractor, I think it was. So I have this idle set quite a bit lower than you would with the stock factory cam. I'm idling around 500-600. You are going to want to be idling around 800 or 900. That was odd, my camera just cut out. Anyhow, if you ever want to steal my truck, and you know where I live, this is how easy it is. Flip those on, pump the gas twice. And also, I am running a full 2.5-inch exhaust the whole way out. She does run it. It sounds pretty decent. It does sound like a tractor though. I have to admit, it sounds like a tractor. She runs good. What can I say? More power. You used to get tires to chirp when you shifted this old, but now you can actually get them spinning. Yeah. Any questions, anything y'all need help with, just let me know. I'll gladly help you. Just let me know in the comments, and y'all have a nice day.